So in the case of NSA, Alex, the bone of contention seems to be the lack of transparency, that somehow all these things about the definitions were not disclosed until this public scrutiny came out. In other words, for argument's sake, even if you were correct in saying that the definitions used in 2018 are not the same now, that have been some evolution took place along the way. Then how do you compare those? Because you came out with, as NSA, you came out with a 3.5 or 3.6
increase, 3.5.
Yeah, meaning that you juxtaposed the 2018 figure with the 2023 to come up with that difference. But it's problematic. I'm not a statistician guy. I'm not a man of statistics. But if you are using, if you are comparing, if you are contrasting the old definition with the new one to come up with that increase, that sounds problematic to me. Why don't you, unless you had qualified it to say, look, if we had used the same definition that we used in 2018, this would have been the picture. But since we used this new one, this is now the 36.7%. That didn't come out very clear.
Yeah, I'm not so sure in terms of how it didn't come out clear, because that information was shared in terms of this is a definition and this is the unemployment rate. And then we talk about potential labor force.
Yeah.
And then we say, if you combine these two, this is what you get. Really, the statistics, maybe I might just go back. The statistics that we produce is really for using for planning purposes, for policy formulation,
Yeah.
And the likes. Now, if you go to the figures also, if you categorize them according to the different ages, personally I have a challenge to look at unemployment of 15 years to 19 years, because these are people who are supposed to be in school. And I've mentioned it also at the launch. And we had to showcase that one also, to say that if you take that one out, what impact will it have on the whole unemployment rate? Now, if you are planning and want to create jobs, is that really the area that you want to create, to focus on?
Yeah.
I would rather say no, because you want to make sure that those people are maybe in school.
Yeah.
And then the definition also say the working force or working age is from 15 years and above. So meaning there's no limit. Now, those of you who are in HR will also tell you that they look at people who are working up to the age of 60 years, which is the retirement age. Now, we also had to show that if you take out those who are above 60, this is what the data is telling you. So our work is just there to give information.
Yeah.
So if we go out there and say our unemployment rate is the figure that the people seems like want to hear, which is 54.8. So when ILO comes, we also say that, what are you trying to do? You don't know. You had people who went to training also.
Yeah.
ILO have worked with us also in terms of putting this report together. So what is it a matter of we want to satisfy somebody who was saying unemployment rate is very much higher? So we gave the information.
Yeah.
Now, coming to the planners or policy implementers, this is the way you need to go down in the figures. For example, when I gave about the age group of 15 to 19 years, which is supposed to be in school, and government does have a policy of free education as well.
Yeah.
This is where a person will say, you will say now that, okay, let's not only look at the definition that is given, the definition of the day, and I'm saying definition of the day because this is what was accepted. And by the way, if people say that we came up with our own definition and I was saying that this is from ILO, I thought as a researcher, the first thing that I'm expecting to see is that you check with ILO and see whether what I'm saying is the truth or not. And then you come back and say, if you don't agree with that definition, it's fine. You have an opinion to say so. But the fact of the matter is that when we have the data, it's really what you do with the data. For example, I'm not comfortable to look at 15 years old, whether they are employed or not, because I would rather encourage those to be in school. Yeah, and then the rest is now as an issue of what the definition tell us and how the people accept the definition or take the definition.
Yeah. If, hypothetically, the very method or definition that you used in 2018 was replicated in 2023, what would have been the picture?
If the picture will be different, of course, because you now include all those that are also not looking for work.
Yeah.
But then also the other thing that you must look at also is that where it will also be different is that this methodology, or the definition of that was used in ICLS 19,
yeah,
it does also not include people who are producing for own use,
yeah,
like subsistence farming, which was also included in the past.
yeah.
So we must take that into consideration. When you want to talk about now the definition of that, they must take all those things also into consideration.
Yeah.
Then you can put it in as a researcher, and then you can say, how do these compare to that one?
Yeah.
But where we are looking at if IMF, World Bank, ILO, whoever asks for the unemployment rate, because they want to compare
Yeah.
to all other countries, they will use the definition of the day.
Yeah.
There were also reports of cutting off prepaid services. Do you still find that happens, and how does the city justify that?
Yeah, look, what they are saying is, you see, what we were telling them is they were relying on their own regulations.
Yes.
And we were saying that there is an enabling act, which is the Electricity Act. And then there are regulations under that act. You cannot then come and decide that you are going to cut prepaid services, because prepaid services, even when I've bought electricity, that is the electricity belongs to me.
You paid for it.
I've paid for it. Now you are coming to prevent me from using it.
Yeah.
That is a violation of my constitutional right.
Yeah.
You see, so we explained to them this, and then, funny enough, the city of Windhoek then, towards the end of the year, also took ECB to court.
Yeah.
To say that the court must explain to them as to why the ECB must be allowed why that decision of the ECB must be allowed. But that is not the decision of the ECB because we complain. It has been a standing practice.
Yes.
So, and then they are saying they were not consulted. City of Windhoek is doing a lot of things without consulting stakeholders.
Yes.
They are doing a lot of things without consulting the ratepayers and the residents. But now they are saying they wanted to be consulted. Consulted for what? It is just a practice that you have been doing wrongly. Yeah. So the ECB was just giving you a directive. It's not something they came up with in June to say that just because Sean Garisep and the ratepayers have complained, we have now made a decision to stop you. No, that's not the case. Yeah. So they are misinterpreting things deliberately, and then they are relying on the wrong, or they are only relying on, it's the same as I drive your taxi, yeah, and then I make my own rules.
Sean, we have to just quickly move on because our time is limited. Just last week, Sean, you were with community leaders from Gobabis and I think Kahanya, and you approached the ACC. But earlier you were saying that City of Windhoek is the only one doing certain things. Why were you guys together, and why were you approaching the Anti-Corruption Commission?
No, what I meant was, City of Windhoek is the only local authority which is disobeying the that standing practice of the Electricity Control Board pertaining yes, to blockage of electricity for municipal for water debt. Yes. But why we were at ACC is, now that is a common problem with local authorities. It is maladministration, and it is that had to do with the appointment of a debt collector. Yes. That is something we have experienced in Windhoek, we experienced in Wolfish Bay, we experienced in Hendy's Bay, we experienced in Gobabis. It was also experienced in Keetmanshoop. Yes. But it was at all times what we are complaining about is the truth, yeah, and it gets settled out of court. So what we went to do at ACC was that we realized in our communication with each other as affected ratepayers and residents of those various towns. 12 towns, because last year 12 towns, the activists of 12 towns, we together sorted audience from the president so that we can take this, elevate these issues to the first office.
Yes.
So what we then realized was that at ACC we also have complaint, and these complaints and the investigations are being dragged. So it was against that background that we decided, let's go and follow up and understand why, when we are complaining about the same debt collector, that the red flag is not taken seriously.
Yes,
that's why we were there.
Okay. And even in the lead up to this, in fact, last year, you went and made a complaint at the Namibian police.
Yes.
Can you explain a bit more about that process and how far it's gone?
Look, that complaint was about the billing system, because it's a known fact now that there were people who knew that there was a defective billing system.
Yes.
Now, maybe for context sake, when some people do not understand what it means, when the burden, what it means. There's somebody who told me in a church that they were working in the NDF. They got a pension.
Yeah.
From the pension, almost half of it they settled on this, because these debts can escalate to over hundreds of thousands. They made a huge payment, and 3-4 months they are back at the very same amount.
Yeah.
It escalated to the very same amount, and they did not understand and they did not get answers. So what we are saying is, people knew that there's a defective billing system. People knew that they're taking money from us that they are not supposed to take.
Yes.
Then why did they wait for us to expose this? So we made cases against strategic heads who knew about this defective billing system, because when those employees came to us, they told us that they also raised this and said this will cause a problem. That's how we made criminal cases against these heads. And we are also going to follow up that case this year. We have given the police, we have problems with the police in how they deal with certain issues, and when it comes to certain issues, they are very quick. That's why it's the same issue we had with with ACC, where we were saying, for small fish you are so fast, but when it is big fish, then you are taking your time. So that is the same thing we are getting. Why is it that when it is these white collar crimes of these big heads, the approach is lethargic, but when small time criminals it's because I work in that space, I know very well that sometimes even just on allegation or suspicion, people are arrested.
Yeah. Do you know if the police is still investigating?
No, we know the investigating officer. In December, when we wrote to the IG, where we told him that should Red Force harass us, just know that we are going to make cases. So we also, in that letter, we told the police officer that we have a problem with this, with the investigating officer who's forever not coming back to us, because we have followed up. So we are very soon going to visit the Inspector General pertaining to that case.
Now, Doctor, before we went on a break, we were talking about skills. Can you share with us, there's always this talk that we do not have sufficient skills. And yet there are several people that say they have the skills, they have the qualifications, but they're overlooked.
Well, I don't know, what skills do you need to transform an economy? What skills do you need to sustain industries? You need your engineers, of course your electrician, and different kind of skills. There are skills, and sometimes those skills are not the ones that are in demand on the market, and there is a mismatch between the demand and the supply.
Yes.
And I think that is a challenge, and building up a skill base that are going to transform, to have an impact on the transformation of the economy, it's going to take a while. And that's why a lot of countries also sometimes will have to rely on expatriates to occupy certain key strategic positions in the industry. But one has to look at what is available skills. And because a lot of our people are more into the social sciences, into, education. We have maybe oversupply of lawyers and so forth, but where are the engineers? We are now, there's the discovery of oil and gas. What skills do you have in that sector of the economy? And of course, mining, and we have been at it for many years, but there are people who with skills who are working in the mining sector.
Now, coming back to the cut, the donor aid cut from the U.S., do you think the U.S. is leaning towards an isolated government structure? Because much of what is happening right now, and that is pushing that government, is right-wing Americans that feel they've been overlooked. Their skills have been overlooked. They feel that they have been replaced by policies like diversity employment. Do you think this is just a strategy, or is this the final whistle? Will Africa ever get that aid, or do you think in the long run it might be aid will be used as a tool to influence governments?
Well, I think, you know, as Namibia, really we, because of our classification as a middle-income country, you know, we have been, a lot of countries that were supporting us at independence have stopped supporting us and giving us development aid. And some of them are our even own what I call traditional friends, and they have cut development aid. And we have been able to sustain, because development aid is a small portion of our budget, if you want. So therefore, we are not aid dependent. But even though you know, any additional resources, it's always welcome and it make an impact. But we should now look deeply into our own situation, into our own economy, and make the best of it. I think the isolationist policy of the U.S. on a number of things, including aid, will make us just, I mean, it's redefining the world. And there will be differences, I mean, in this global world, and you are taking as isolationist, it will strengthen groups such as BRICS. It will even strengthen further integration of Europe, the EU, because the EU-US relations has always been dynamic. And of course, African countries. They have to look at not only at themselves individually, but also collectively. So it's a redefinition of the world, but also a strengthening of multilateralism in a different way.
There are talks, obviously, that what is happening right now, like you say, is redefining what the world looks like. And now it's the West between the East. And South Africa is part of the BRICS. Namibia, whether we like it or not, is connected to South Africa. So do you think do you see us being caught in the middle here when it comes to this shift in global politics?
No, I don't think so. We have had historical relations with South Africa. It's our major trading partner, and we have also political relations, and those ones will continue. And irrespective of what happened, you know, the U.S. cannot redefine our relations with our friends and also internationally. In this multipolar world, Namibia's relation with the whole world, and the U.S. is only one country. And the principle of sovereign equality of all nations is very important for us.
How do you think, in conclusion, should Namibia protect itself from what is happening right now? I mean, we've already caught strays with Elon Musk telling the Germans that they should free themselves from the past, a past that is connected to Namibia that is demanding reparations for the genocide. So how should Namibia protect herself from the increasing fascism that will eventually impact the rest of the world?
I think the question for us is to build and to continue to build our own capacity to deal with our issues. That's what it is. You can deal with other countries, and of course, international relations is part of our it's part of our domestic policies, and we deal with other nations to advance our national interest. And therefore, we are not just a small country that will go left or right depending on the wings of others. I think we have resources and we have the political capacity to strengthen our economy and our politics and to deal with the rest of the world on equal terms.
So is your complaint to the Judicial Service Commission about those behaviors in court, or is it because you also raised very important, a very big issue this week about Judge Waitele having been exempted from paying land tax by the Minister of Agriculture, Kalesh Leitwine, who is the first respondent in your case. Is it a combination of both situations, or is it primarily how he was behaving from your perspective?
Yes, definitely we will come to that, because that now is a matter of public record, and the public is busy engaging that story. So we don't know whether this is a resettlement farm or it's not a resettlement farm. Well, these farms are two. One is 4,000 hectares, one is 1,700. We don't know whether those guys are exporting to Europe, which is the theme of debate in court. Let's come there. Let's park that issue there. Now, every Namibian is equal before the law. But the judge says, Mr. Amopanda is a declared politician. I was sitting there wondering, what is going on here? Mr. Amopanda is a declared politician. He has taken sides. You cannot bring him to court. He peddles, these are his words, he peddles a particular line. I don't know whether it's a red line but these are the words of the judge. But I mean, how do I go to court and have a general position to say I don't know what's happening, whether I'm for or against? Obviously, I go to court to speak on a particular position, but he says to us that no, politicians cannot come to court and vindicate the rights. The same politicians that are given rights by Article 17 of the Namibian Constitution. He says Mr. Amopanda is a declared politician. He doesn't say declared by who. We don't have politicians declared. That's not how we understand politicians being declared. But these are the things that he says. Then when you sit back and you realize, oh, okay, this is something else. Definitely. So that is a problem, because that basically means it's discrimination on the basis of my political views. He's saying my evidence must be treated in a particular way because I'm a politician. Yeah, it's a problem. That conduct cannot stand. It brings the judiciary in disrepute. This judge says to my legal representative that no, if I ask you, but remember this case was broadcasted live. The family, the mother of my legal practitioner, my mother, and everybody else is watching. The judge says, you don't know for sure whether your father is your father. Now, can you just imagine, say it in our language? Somebody just saying it, this is what the judge says on TV. So, when you leave court and the judge says that, then you go home and you look at your father, what's going to be happening? And this is not just you, it's everybody else, because apparently no one knows that their parents are their parents. No one expects that to come to court and you are going to be told about the bedroom affairs, because he says, you don't know for sure that your father is your father. And why is it that you don't know? Because you were not there when you were being made. You were not there when you've been born. So what are you talking? You are talking about bedroom affairs of that. We can't have a judge who says that they are young. There were young students there who were watching and were following, and if they think, oh, if I go to court, my parents will be mentioned. And he says, which class did you attend at UNAM? I mean, my advocate has children. He's a headman at his village there, and he's a distinguishable gentleman, very peaceful, very calm, even in that storm. He's a respectable, a reputable person, one of the most smartest people that I know. And for him to be humiliated like that, to an extent, then the judge goes and say, it's one thing for me just to complain and complain and complain, or any other person to complain and complain. Yeah. But here we are dealing with a person who has committed a crime, and he agrees that he has committed the crime, and he went to apologize for the crime.
Yeah.
It's on record that the judge is saying, no, I want to apologize, But remember what I said at the beginning, that the legal practitioner is not representing himself, he's representing me.
Yeah.
Now you do that to my legal practitioner. Then as a result of what you do, which you recognize that is wrong, my legal practitioner was unable to advance my case.
Yeah.
You convict yourself, you find a remedy which is an apology. And then I must just sit here. It's not his case, it's my case.
I hear you. So let me put this to you. One of the things that Judge Waitela said quite repeatedly during this process is that you and your legal team were ill-prepared. You came ill-prepared, you didn't present any evidence, you didn't say which rights specifically of people are being trampled upon by the presence of this tool called the red line.
That is actually very scandalous, and he said that. But the lawyer that is representing the South African guy who's representing the millionaires guys and the Namibia Agricultural Union, he came to indicate that my right to dignity was pleaded. And he says that no, that he's saying his defense is that no, there was the article right to dignity that was pleaded, but the pleading doesn't meet the threshold. What does it mean? And he gave an example of a case in Europe. Apparently in Europe, people had to resort to drink water from the toilet. So your rights can be violated according to this logic. Your right can be violated, but to step on the mat, to get out of the car for your meat to be convicted, is not so bad compared to people in Europe who had to drink from the toilets. So there's a major and material contradiction between what the judge was saying. I mean, if there's anybody who was unprepared, is the judge himself.